1180 welcomes you to the Seniors Rock Show, presented by Century Benefits Group, Medicare and Employee Benefits Advisors. The Seniors Rock Show is a lively weekly discussion shining a bright light on aging with fun, entertaining, and important info for all adults. Join in with your comments or questions. Call 222-1180 or 1-800-295-1180. Now, live from the News Radio Wham 1180 studios in downtown Rochester, here's your host, Joanna Palvino.
Good morning and happy Saturday. Welcome to the Seniors Rock Show. I'm estate planning and elder law attorney Mike Robinson. Joanna is off today, but she'll be back with us next week. But I am here with Pam, our in-studio producer, and today's co-host, Peter Gordon. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And I know regular listeners are familiar with Peter, and we're going to hear more from him in just a moment. Folks, we are live, as we are most Saturdays, here at 11 o'clock. And if you'd like to call in with a question or a comment, you can reach us at 585-222-1180, or if you're out of the area, 1-800-295-1180. Pam will take your call. If you'd like to be on the air with your question, that's fine. Or if you'd rather leave the question with Pam, that's fine too, and she'll relay that to us. Also, our guest today is Mark Gruba, Senior Communications Specialist with AAA Western and Central New York. And yes, he is the same Mark Gruba, award-winning journalist that you'll remember, anchoring and reporting news and sports here locally. And today, Mark's going to use his experience to bring us some important information to the community. He's going to talk about summer travel safety tips. But first, Peter Gordon has some updates for us. Peter is an indoor air quality specialist. He likes to sign his emails, helping you breathe easier. And he's all about keeping the air inside our homes and businesses clean and healthy. So, Peter, let's start with the story of how indoor air professionals came to be over, 30 years ago now?
Yeah, it was 1992, actually. We met these guys from Sweden that had this unique technology for cleaning ductwork. And I didn't know anything other than you go to the thermostat and you turn it up to get heat or down to get cool. And so we learned a lot in a short period of time. But long story short is, in the early 90s, we found out it was very unique and that the best duct cleaning equipment were these giant suck trucks. And they only cleaned about, 10 to 20% of the contamination out of the ductwork. And this unique technology gets 95 to 99% out. And people were innovating and doing things with brushes and all that. And to this day, unfortunately, the equipment off the shelf for $10,000 to $20,000 only cleans, up to 40 to 50% of the stuff out of the ductwork, and we're still getting 95 to 99%. Of course, it's a, $80,000 system. So that's kind of how it all started, and then we realized that there's other things besides clean ductwork that takes care of, the air that we breathe that gets people healthy.
Gotcha. And, we're finally, I think, getting into our summer heat season. How do high temperatures and the increased humidity impact indoor air quality, and how do we manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for many that have forced air systems, you've got air conditioning, okay? And so from that standpoint, the air conditioning really makes you feel wonderful inside when you come in from a hot, sticky 80 degrees or 85 degrees into a cool 75 with less humidity, because that's part of what the air conditioning does. But the other thing it does is that in order to generate that cool, there's moisture on the cooling coils. So when that moisture blows downstream into your dirty ductwork, which we will explain how ducts get dirty at some point. But it makes mold inside the ductwork, just like the 8th grade science project. You've got nutrients, you've got dark, and you've got moisture. and it's the perfect formula for mold. Not to mention just ductwork is leaky. If you look at your cold air returns, it's just sheet metal nailed to the joists in most cases, and the moisture from our very humid basements, especially with all the rain we've had, filters in there, and it's a mess. It's even more of a challenge with the humidity, and then of course we also have other products like high capacity dehumidifiers, which we'll come back to, which help with the lower humidity to make for a healthier environment, so you can't grow mold.
Sure. And I guess that's important too. I'm thinking about the fact that, these air quality alerts because of wildfire smoke seem to have become a regular thing. So, people probably are closing the windows more than they used to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and just not only that, but with all the energy mandates, for trying to get with all the green codes, our houses are insulated more. You can't, people are foaming attics, foaming their walls. So your house is like a bubble. So, once again, indoor air pollution starts with we, the people, that shed 50 million dead skin cells per person per day. You add to that, when we do open our windows and doors, you bring in pollens and dirt and diesel particulate from the outside. If you add pets to that, that goes on. And every time you turn on your furnace or air conditioning, and a cloud puffs out. So that's kind of what happens there.
Gotcha. And I have to tell you, every time you talk about the 50 million dead skin cells that get shed every day, people are either smiling or grimacing. There's no in betweens. So
right.
So okay. So we've got the dirty ducts. We got the mold buildup. So how do we deal with that?
Okay. So the first thing is like, we say is you got to clean the toilet bowl. It's source contamination removal. So we have this unique technology, which I said, which scrapes and blasts out 95 to 99% of all the contamination. Without getting too visual, since this is an audio show, it is very visual. That's why I encourage people, if you wonder how we do it, call, and I email you videos and stuff like that, or even snail mail. We still have DVDs if you have that technology. But it's basically scrapes and blasts out the inside of the ductwork while the system is under negative pressure. And the air knife that does that is like a turbine on a jet engine, and it's powered by a large diesel compressor. It's the same compressor you'd see like on the 490 driving two jackhammers.
Gotcha. And Pam, you just had that done, correct?
Yeah, actually, they just came to our house on Monday, and we had a great experience. One of the big selling points for me was, I typically do a lot of the dusting in our home, and it felt like I was dusting every single week, and I just couldn't get rid of this. And so the appeal to me was, and I know Joanna has talked about this too, is not having to clean as much every single week and dust. And I've already noticed an immediate difference, actually. I mean, this week, usually Saturday is the day I would go around and clean the house after I leave the show, and it's immaculate in there still. So that was great. But no, the guys did a great job. I mean, Peter himself I'll give him some praise. He was awesome. He was super responsive. Any question that I had, he was there for me right away. Always would call, email me, text me back, whatever I needed, whenever. The guys that came up to the site were great. They were very thorough in their work and made sure everything was done well, and took the time to walk us through it and educate us on the process. And afterwards, your whole house smells, I think it's called Canberra, right, Peter?
Canberra. It's like the capital of Australia with a K.
Yeah,
it's a whole product
it's like
line
this
of
awesome, like eucalyptus type smell that comes through the vents, and it just makes your whole house smell amazing after they're done working. And I think Peter had told me before, it actually does help get rid of the mold and bacteria as well in your system, which is even better. So, overall great experience. It only took a couple of hours, and just feel a lot better about breathing and being in the home and making sure that everything's up to code and up to par. So thanks to Peter's team. It was an awesome experience, and I would definitely recommend them. They did a great job.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Peter, before we go, got some current offers going on. How do folks get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so for the duct cleaning, a first-time caller um, can save $175. Okay, if you're a repeat customer, because we've been around for 32 years, so you might have some repeaters there. We may even do better depending on the size of your house. We mail out postcards, so I'll honor whatever's on the postcard. But then we also, as I mentioned, we have a high capacity dehumidifier. That is $400 off, as well as the medical grade air purifier that's 40 times more efficient than HEPA filters, the portable unit that covers 1,200 square feet. That's $400 off as well.
Awesome. And then
and
how do folks get a hold of you?
Yeah. So they can call me after this show because we are live. And that number is 585-427-8020. So it's 585-427-8020. And you can just punch in 303. That will go right to my desk.
Awesome. Thanks. And Peter's going to be with us for the whole show. Hey, folks, stay with us. If you're planning a trip this summer, our guest Mark Gruba of AAA is up next with some outstanding tips you can use on summer travel safety in the air or on the ground. Mark will be with us right after the break.
You're going to cue me when You're listening to the Seniors Rock Radio Show. I'm Peter Gordon, sitting in the co-host chair. As an air quality specialist with Indoor Air Professionals, I talk a lot about healthy air, and keeping your family safe from pollutants. Safety is important at home and on the road, and our guest today is here to prepare you for a safe travel experience wherever you're going. Mark Gruba is a senior communications specialist with AAA Western and Central New York. Mark's been with AAA for the last 3 years as part of their public relations team. Prior to joining AAA, he spent over 20 years in local Rochester media, first as a sports anchor, then as a television news anchor. We're glad he's still here with AAA. Welcome, Mark Gruba.
Well, Peter, thank you for that introduction. It's great to be with you and Mike on this Saturday morning. I would argue maybe the nicest Saturday morning we've had around these parts in a while.
Absolutely.
I think Mark, you're correct there. Yeah, and our topic today is summer travel safety, and let's start with just talking about flying, because I know a lot of people are going to be flying to different destinations over the summer. Any tips there?
So yeah, I mean, this has been a robust year already for air travel, particularly domestically, but people are flying abroad as well. And some people may have seen news over the last week or so. The U.S. State Department did issue a travel advisory to Italy. So that is new. The basic premise here, there are heightened concerns over terrorism there. Specifically terror attacks and related activity. So the State Department issues these advisories and warnings from time to time. This is a level 2 advisory, so that is urging caution for travelers. A level 3 advisory would be for travelers to reconsider their travel. Level 4 advisory would be do not travel. So you're at the level 2 here where we're urging caution. And for a little bit of context on this, it's not really to raise alarm, so to speak. It's more about awareness. Most of Western Europe is currently at a level 2. So this is not without precedent, but it is something the travelers should be aware of, because in our most recent travel forecast for Memorial Day weekend, Rome, Italy was the #1 international travel destination. Americans are going in large numbers to Rome for the Jubilee, which takes place every 25 years. Americans have booked travel in the last couple of months to get to Rome with the election of a new pope as well. So this is a popular time to be in Italy. It is something for travelers to be aware of. And again, the key is awareness, not necessarily to raise unnecessary concern, but just for travelers to be aware that they should have some caution. The idea here is to be vigilant, to be aware of your surroundings while you're there. It's difficult as a tourist to often avoid large crowds, but be aware of your surroundings. Anything that looks like it's some kind of a planned demonstration or some type of confrontation, you're going to want to remove yourself from that area as quickly as possible, proactively. And I think the key recommendation for anyone going to really going abroad anywhere, but particularly to a place where there might be a travel advisory in place, is consider enrolling in the STEP program. That's the Smart Travel Enrollment Program. That's through the State Department. It allows the State Department to know that where you are, and more importantly, how to contact you and assist you in the event of some kind of an emergency. So that's been in the news lately. Listeners who are going abroad or who have plans to go to Italy, and there are a lot of them this year, should at the very least be aware of that.
Sure. And, Mark, I also hear people, when I've traveled abroad, or just hear people talk about it, they'll advise, try not to stand out as an American, and not because you're not proud of being an American, but just because, especially in some places, that can attract some unwanted attention.
Yeah, and I think that falls under the umbrella of vigilance and being self-aware and aware of your surroundings as well. Be yourself, right? We're not asking anybody to assume a different identity to go abroad. But at the same time, I think that a healthy respect for the culture and traditions of the places you're going is part of being a smart, informed traveler to begin with. And I think it allows you to assimilate more easily into that culture and also immerse yourself in that culture more easily as well. So it's really a win-win. If you do a little planning ahead of time, and it can be as simple as just learning a few key phrases, maybe in Italian if you're going to Rome, like I said, or in French if you're going to Paris, Spanish if you're going to Madrid, and the like.
Gotcha. Got to talk about Real ID. That's a thing now, right?
It's a big deal, and it is a thing right now. The Real ID requirements took effect back on May 7th. A lot to unpack here, but let's try to simplify it. Anyone looking to fly domestically within the U.S. must now have a Real ID to board a flight and fly domestically. So a Real ID or an enhanced ID or another document that meets the Real ID requirements. So let's start there. If you have a passport, a valid passport, that will allow you to fly anywhere domestically, and of course it will allow you to fly internationally as well. So if you have a passport, you can meet the Real ID requirement by bringing your passport to the airport and having it looked over at the TSA checkpoint. If you do not have a passport, though, and you want to fly domestically, you need a Real ID or an enhanced ID. You'll know you have one or the other by taking your ID out and looking at it. It will have either a star on it or a U.S. flag, and on the enhanced ID, it will actually say enhanced on the ID as well. New York is one of the states that offers an enhanced ID. I have it. The advantage of an enhanced ID is it allows you to seamlessly travel over the border into Canada and Mexico as well. But of course, our proximity to Canada, it's convenient to have an enhanced ID here. There are a couple things to keep in mind as it relates to the Real ID. If you do not have one, you can get one at any point. You didn't miss the deadline by not having it by May 7th. You can go to the DMV, fill out the application, and get a Real ID or an enhanced ID. For an enhanced ID, there's a $30 upcharge for that. But other than that, the process is fairly seamless.
Gotcha.
There are people, and I would just add, there are some people in our area, because of our proximity to Canada, that are enrolled in a Trusted Traveler program. Those IDs are also Real ID compliant. So the key here is, if you don't have a Real ID, there's still time to get one. If you don't plan to fly domestically, you don't have to have a Real ID. Your regular ID will allow you to vote and have access to health care, all that kind of stuff. But if you do intend to fly, and sometimes we have to fly unexpectedly, you must have a Real ID.
Gotcha. All right, Mark, great information. And people, stay with us, because Mark's going to be with us again after the news break. We've been talking about air travel. We're going to talk about some ground travel tips when we come back after the break here on News Radio Wham 1180.
And it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard, It's a hard rain, they're gonna fall.
And welcome back to Seniors Rock Radio. If you're just joining us, our guest today is Mark Gruba of AAA, and he's talking with us about some summer travel safety. We covered air travel in the last segment, and Mark now is going to give us some travel tips for those of us on the road.
Well, it's great to be with you, Mike, and Peter as well. Yes, I mean, the majority of Americans this summer, if they are vacationing and traveling, they will do so in their car, the vast majority. So, yeah, I think the big thing for road trips, families, individuals that are looking to road trip this summer is to prep the car before you go, prep your vehicle. So get it looked over by a trusted repair facility, trusted mechanic. We're looking at the battery to make sure the battery has a good charge, the tires, tire pressure, and tread depth as well. You don't want any issues with your tires on a long road trip, of course. The headlights even, wipers, wiper fluid, some of the things that can cause issues and find you stuck on the side of the road. Of course, at AAA, we will come rescue you. We'll come help you out on the side of the road, but we'd much prefer that you get to your destination without any issues and safely.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm one of those folks who's experienced a breakdown on the road. It's no fun for sure. But you're right. AAA is a great resource for that. What about just driver safety? What should folks be cognizant of just in terms of their own personal preparation?
Yeah, traffic safety is at the heart of our mission at AAA. So driver safety is really important to us. These are the kinds of things that we want people thinking about when they get in their car to take a road trip. First of all, you're responsible for your safety, your passengers, and other motorists on the roadway as well. So this is critically important. We're looking at our speed. We don't want to be speeding. We don't want to be distracted behind the wheel. Of course, in today's day and age, the cell phone is the big bugaboo. Try to put it away, out of sight. We all have that fear of missing out, that alert, that buzz on the phone, and immediately it takes our eyes off the road and to that phone. So put it out of sight. Keep your eyes up and focused on the road. Certainly it goes without saying, but we're not going to get behind the wheel impaired, drugs or alcohol. So that's a no-no. And the other thing is, particularly with longer road trips, we want to avoid being drowsy behind the wheel. If you're driving longer distances, say 5-6 hours, it can be very tiring. Maybe after a couple of hours, build in a rest stop, maybe a 15 to 20 minute nap if necessary, depending upon the time of day. But we want to avoid being drowsy behind the wheel. Sometimes it's as simple as just taking turns driving with a fellow passenger. But those are big ones. And then the other one I would mention, because this is really important for us at AAA with our roadside heroes, as we mentioned, but for other emergency personnel and really all disabled vehicles on the side of roadways, slow down and move over. It is the law in all 50 states. We have an expanded law here in New York State where it's not just for emergency personnel and vehicles, but for anyone who is on the side of the road, you must slow down and, if safe to do so, move over. So move to that other lane if it's safe to do so. But at the very least, slow down, because these are life-saving decisions. And anyone, as you mentioned, Mike, who's been stuck on the side of the road, knows that feeling of being outside of a car and having cars whizzing by you at 60, 65 miles per hour. It's frightening. So keep that in mind as you're driving. And again, it's a courtesy, but it's also the law. Slow down and move over.
For sure. Nobody has a crystal ball, but what can we expect for gas prices this summer?
Well, the good news is, there's been a lot of talk about higher prices for things in the last few months. We've all seen evidence of that as we go about our daily lives. One area where we're all getting a break, and particularly road trippers this summer, is gas prices. As of this morning, I checked it out before we jumped on the radio here. The national average is like 34 cents lower than it was a year ago today. And locally in Rochester, it's a good 55 cents lower. Now, that's an average. It's an average price. As we all know, you can drive from one gas station to another and see different prices. But when you aggregate those prices and you come up with an average, here locally, we're over 50 cents cheaper than we were a year ago today, and nationally. So if you're driving outside of New York into neighboring states, you're still getting a break. We're a good 35 cents lower than we were a year ago. The key component here in terms of, you're right, the crystal ball, who knows what tomorrow will bring. The key component is the cost of crude oil. It's down appreciably from where it was a year ago at this time. It's currently trading somewhere in the low 60s. There's more supply than demand for oil at this point. And so that is a benefit to motorists. The wild card, as of June 1st, we are now officially into hurricane season. We don't tend to think of it until later in the summer and the fall, but if a hurricane were to get into the Gulf and impact refineries there, that would have at least a short-term ripple effect on gas prices. Having said all of that, right now we're all catching a big break when we fill up, even though it still is expensive.
Gotcha. And, something that I personally am not familiar with, but I understand summer cruising is quite popular this year.
It's amazing, Mike. Each of the last 3 years, Americans have set a new record for cruising. AAA forecasting back in January, a record 19 million Americans will cruise this year. The popularity is soaring coming out of the pandemic. The most popular spots are pretty easy to imagine. The Caribbean,
Sure.
from lots of points in Florida and even as high north as Cape Liberty in New York City. People will cruise down to the Caribbean. In fact, I'm cruising this fall on a trip with AAA. I'm encouraging your listeners to sign up and join us. We're going to Bermuda, September 13th through the 18th. AAA.com/groups. Just go to the cruise section. There's a shameless plug right there.
There you go.
But the other hot spot is Alaska, particularly
Yes.
this time of year in these summer months. We are coming up on the longest day of the year where literally you're looking at 24 hours of daylight in those northern points in Alaska. So it's pretty cool. It's a popular spot, and we've never seen interest like we're looking at right now. So cruising has been huge.
Yeah, I've got some very good friends who are headed on an Alaska cruise here in a couple of weeks. So what else, Mark, what else should we know is, if we're getting out and about this summer on the roads?
Yeah, I think to put a fine point on the conversation, if you're making travel plans, whether you're looking to fly or drive, a significant distance, work with a trusted travel advisor, someone that can identify the best flights, the best itinerary, help you make what you imagine in your mind to become a reality. Let them take the work out of it and let you focus on the enjoyment part. The other piece of that is strongly consider trip insurance. You're protecting your investment at that point. As you mentioned before, none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So it could be a medical issue, it could be a personal issue, it could be a family issue, something that causes you to change your intended plans. Having insurance will protect that investment. And even if you're on your trip and you have some type of an issue come up, some type of medical emergency, having that trip insurance will help cover and defray some of those costs as well. So that's a big one. Insurance. Two other things for people to think about. Obviously, the earlier you plan, the better. And having flexibility with your plans, even like flying out on a Tuesday and returning on a Wednesday with a flight can help you save some money. And again, working with a trusted travel advisor is going to help you take advantage of those types of things as well.
Very good. Good tips.
All right. All right. Thanks, Mark, for joining us today and for all the valuable information on summer travel safety. And where can listeners get more information from AAA?
Yeah, great question. And again, thanks for having me. It's great to be with both of you and here on WHAM as well. AAA.com gets you where you want to go. AAA.com/travel will get you into more travel stuff. And if you want to think about that cruise with me, AAA.com/groups. Look for the cruise section.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, and stay with us, folks. We'll be right back after the break here on News Radio WHAM 1180 and the Seniors Rock Radio Show.
Who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye.
And welcome back to Seniors Rock Radio. And Peter Gordon is joining me this week as our co-host with Joanna off for the day. So, Peter, we heard a wonderful testimonial from Pam earlier in the show regarding your services. But I imagine you hear from a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what gets us up in the morning at Indoor Air Professionals is hearing how our services and products have changed people's lives. So, another five-star Google review from a gentleman named Chris. He wrote us and he said, I've had a problem breathing and coughing, tried many different kinds of medicines. I contacted IAP and they were so helpful and had so much information. They have a great price and how professional the men were that came out and did the cleaning. I was amazed. My cough has almost gone away and can breathe so much better. Can't believe what came out of the ducts. I definitely recommend this company. And they go on and on. So it's things like that people don't realize because it's out of sight, out of mind. Um, and we also get those same type testimonies from people that get the um, medical grade air purifiers that are 40 times more efficient than HEPA filters. Now, another woman, she actually called in a show that I did last week on WHAM as well, and her name is Valerie, and so she said that, and here's the thing: we clean our carpets, we clean our windows, all the things we can plainly see to make our home healthier. But this is so out of sight, out of mind, buried in your duct system. Um, and she said that she got off of using her albuterol after the duct cleaning, and that's what you as an inhaler for her asthma.
Right,
And she
right.
she went on to say how everything was wonderful, like Pam did, and but she was upset with herself as she waited so long to do it because it sounded too expensive. She had called me 3 times in the last 5 years, and it's just like, oh, I can't afford that. I can't. And at the end of the day, she said it was the best money she ever spent. She basically she figured out she'll pay for her duct cleaning in 6 months based on doctor visits, co-pays, and not taking medication. And not only that, the medications that we take generally aren't good for our system. If you can clean something up in naturally without medication, that's where I'd go. And I know that's a topic, a theme throughout Seniors Rock. So those are the type things that really motivate us as far as getting people healthy, and they just don't put two and two together. So I encourage people, to at least investigate it and have a conversation, and I can send you all the information.
Sure. And Peter, remind us again, how do folks get a hold of you and Indoor Air Professionals?
Okay, so they're going to call 585-427-8020 and then just hit 303. And, you can today is great. I generally am available most of the time. Yeah, I will, it'll take 5 minutes to get a duct cleaning estimate. And then I usually send you the information also on the high capacity dehumidifier, which, by the way, is 5 times more efficient than a standard dehumidifier. These ones, they usually last anywhere from 2 to 4 years. They run all the time. So the high capacity unit, it actually, besides having 5 times the drying power, uses a third less energy, and it just centers your house to get below 50% relative humidity so you can't grow mold. It takes the stink away in these old musty basements.
Gotcha. All right. Well, hey, Peter, thanks so much for sitting in the co-host chair today. I appreciate it, as always. And Mark Gruba, again, thank you for joining us. So next week, Joanna will be back, but I'll be taking the day off. And so Jeff Flaherty of Wise Home Energy is going to be our co-host. And he's always got some valuable advice for us. And we're also looking forward to having a guest from Olli at RIT. Olli, OLLI, stands for Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. It's an outstanding learning community for adults at Rochester Institute of Technology. They're part of a national network of Ollies across the country, and we'll have someone to join us next week to tell us more about that. In the meantime, thank you once again for spending part of your Saturday with us. I hope you found the information helpful. Remember, we're live every Saturday at 11 a.m. You can call with questions, or if you've got some things that you'd like us to address that you don't hear, feel free to leave us a message on our Facebook page, and we'll be happy to address that if we can. So. Otherwise, I think maybe we've got a dry weekend ahead of us. First time since November, according to what I read in the news earlier this week. So, wow. So if you're able to get out and enjoy the weather, again, thanks for being with us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. And in the meantime, remember to be well and be kind. And we'll see you next week here on Seniors Rock Radio.